Great, thank you. Good afternoon, Council. I'd like to call this regular council meeting of July 14, 2026 to order with adoption of the agenda. So I want to make a motion for me. Councillor Devlin, Councillor Cherry, all in favor? Motion's carried. Adoption of the minutes of the regular council meeting of June 23rd. Councillor Devlin, Councillor Cherry, all in favor? Motion's carried. Any business arising from those minutes?
Mayor Souls, I have a question regarding the multiplex project management plan. There was a resolution. I just were wondering when we might expect to see that report.
Mr. Parliament, any comment?
I guess I can defer to Lord.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have just been working on a draft. I'm currently just reviewing it in line with other project management plans the city has done, just to ensure there's some consistency. And then I will circulate that to the senior leadership team, probably in the next couple of weeks, just trying to figure out everybody's holiday schedule. So I would think by early fall.
Okay, all right. That work for you, Councillor? Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, thank you.
Any other business? Seeing none, I'll just go on to announcements from the mayor. Just we are right into construction season, lots of road construction, sewer projects. So for the community, just to be mindful that some roads are closed because of construction, and careful as you tour around them. And if you're walking down those streets, I just encourage you to stay away from any open excavations. All right, we're going to move on to item 9A, bylaws. Ms. Floyd, do you have a brief overview for us regarding?
Sure, Mayor Sells. Basically, this amendment to the council procedure bylaw is just to make sure that the section that we added in the last amendment on notice of motions is aligned with the community charter. So it has been done as well. There are a few minor housekeeping issues or corrections, sorry. The bylaw does need a fulsome review. I just don't think at this time before the election, the timing is the best. I would like to see this reviewed once the new council gets in and it be fully updated and vetted through legal.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Floyd? Councillor Palmer?
Thank you, Mayor Souls. I'm prepared to put the motion on the table as written.
Councillor Cherry, did you have a question?
I was going to put it on the table.
Oh, okay. So go ahead, Councillor Palmer.
So I move the council procedure amendment bylaw number 2446 be read a first and second time, and that staff be authorized to issue a public notice advising of the changes in accordance with section 124 of the community charter.
Councillor Cherry, do you want to second
I
that?
would.
Councillor Cherry is seconding that. Any discussion on the motion?
I'll just make a brief comment. There's nothing hugely substantive in these changes. And by having the first and second reading, it gives us some time to sort of think whether we want to put the adoption. I think there would be no problem adopting it with this term. But if for some reason there's some reluctance, it moves it along at least. So I'll be in favor. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Orlando?
Yeah, I was just hoping for a bit more of an explanation, a bit more detailed on section 6.1. That's the notice of motion section, and how it relates to what council previously, changes council previously made to notice of motion a few months back.
Ms. Floyd, comment?
Thank you, Councillor Orlando through the mayor. There's not really a significant change other than it removes the reference to the policy. And I think council collectively approved that policy. Having said that, I believe one council member at the time referenced that if council collectively wants something to go forward, although the mayor doesn't support it, that doesn't mean it dies there. And so this change was basically just to make sure that it aligned with the community charter as opposed to that policy itself. If council chooses, when the more fulsome review is done, to like elaborate on what is considered municipal purview and not, then I think that should be considered under a legal review, and it could be added at that time.
Hello?
Yeah, thank you. If I could, Mayor Stalls, a follow-up for clarification. So the previous notice of motion policy that council adopted a while back, this is intended to integrate it with the council procedures bylaw. It references, the revised policy here references that the notice of motion, if somebody has it a couple weeks ahead of time by the Monday deadline or whatever, the week before, that is going to be submitted to staff. And then that is going to follow the same procedure as was outlined a few months ago. Is that correct?
That's the intent, yes, Councilor Armando. Right now, we're only talking about the bylaw though. So this is to make sure the bylaw aligns. Should council wish to make any changes to that policy, they can make a request for us to amend it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Any other comments? Councillor Berlin.
Yeah, I am not going to support this as written right now. And the reason being is when we did adopt the notice of motion policy, which is just a policy, I feel there are issues with that in the sense that it takes what should be something that comes from the council table and filters it through the mayor and administration, which I don't think, especially the administration side of things, should be the right way of doing things, the judgment of these things. I do recognize that in the revised policy, 6.14 says nothing in this section limits council's ability to consider matters that arise from an item properly included on the agenda. And as far as my understanding of the community charter goes, that notice of motion could happen anytime. So at the start of a meeting, at adoption of agenda, what I see is a sort of a two-tier system that might resolve some of the inherent contradictions in the policy, but it nevertheless has that problematic issue where, I mean, ideally people would be submitting these ahead of time. So I realize that sometimes they can arise from the floor, something that happens, but ideally we would be dealing with that policy part of the issue, which is still problematic. So I don't think this is a big change in general, but for that reason, I cannot support this.
All right, any other comments from council? I'm going to support this. We've vetted it through our legal department and they're quite comfortable with it. So I'm going to call a question. All those in favor? Opposed? Note that Councillor Orlando's in opposition. Balance of council in favor. This motion passes. Moving on to 11A, staff reports, economic opportunity funds. Ms. Procession, Ms. Beckler.
Surprise. We kind of look a lot alike, but in the roll with this.
I'll let you take it from here.
Sounds good. So we have our first intake of the economic opportunity funds. So EOF was created specifically as a means of compensation for the loss of economic opportunities of those lands affected by the dams and reservoirs. The way that the process works is that EOF is designed to stimulate economic generators, transportation facilities, and infrastructure development, supported jointly by participating members of the involved and approved boards. CSRD recently had some staffing turnover. So we were late in getting the information from them on where EOF funding stood for 2026. It was confirmed in early June that they had a pot of $547,000 in EOF funding for this year. So the intake that we had scheduled between January through March, we had 6 applicants come through, and just like Ready and RMI, we saw double the ask for what we had available. So there was a total of $328,000 in the ask. And so the process was CED staff and CSRD staff reviewed the requests and approved the funding that you see available in the report.
Okay.
So, any questions for?
Any questions for Ms. Buck? Councilor Staker?
I see that, thank you for the presentation. I see that LunaFest was requesting, or sorry, Revelstoke Arts Council was requesting $34,000 for LunaFest. However, it's recommended that $10,000 be allocated. So I'm just wondering about the impact that that shortfall is going to have on that organization.
So Arts Revelstoke, we had a chance to review their budget for LunaFest. It is a fluctuating moving target. Some of their grants haven't been approved. EOF is designed essentially for like a quick economic generator. It's not meant to support necessarily the full amount of ask. And so we're trying to allocate to different creative sectors. So you can see that affordable piece was outlined by donating to the museum and also to the Visual Arts Center.
Any follow-up?
No, I'm hesitant to support it as written. I think there's more community benefit for the funding for LunaFest than some of these others, but that's my personal opinion.
Councilor Palmer?
Thank you, Mayor Souls. I have one or two questions at this point, and then I think I'll reserve my comments until the individual. Looks like we're doing the motions individually. I'll reserve my comments on those until they're done.
All right.
First of all, thanks for the report and for bringing this forward to us. I know there's been a bit of a learning curve and all that kind of stuff going on, and I appreciate the work that's been happening in the background. One question, it went to Revelstoke and Area Economic Development Commission. Did they endorse these recommendations, or was there just sort of a general discussion?
There was just a general discussion at the end of the meeting. The primary focus on the June 24th meeting was on MXD. The information was brought forward, it was published in the agenda, and the commission didn't have any feedback that was brought forward to them on June 24th.
Okay, thank you. A consideration in the future is possibly if there's a committee or a commission that's endorsing recommendations, it makes it a little bit easier, I think, for council. And I think that's the main thing. I got some individual questions as each one's read out, I guess. Thanks.
Good. Any other questions from Ms. Buckler before we go through the list? Seeing none, let's start with number one. Councilor Orlando, do you have a question?
Yeah, just I guess more of a request for background, if possible. Just update council. One of the funding requests is related to airport studies. Sorry, I just
Yes.
moved away from the page. I was wondering through the chair if possible to get an update on because the community economic development had proposed 3 different grants, has applied for 1 or 2 of them, and has also heard back. So I think it would just be useful for council to have an update, because that was just, we heard word back on that we were not successful on one of them just recently.
Absolutely. So through the mayor to Councillor Orlando, so we've had 2 unsuccessful grant applications for the airport master planning and business plan to date. So BC Air Access, we were denied in early 2026, partially due to timing and clarity on ownership. The 2027-2028 intake has not yet been announced by the province, but is scheduled to open in November. So that grant can sometimes be open for upwards of 3 months. Right now we have, I know it's really hard to follow all the CED grants, but we have a CAN export grant for 49K that this 55 would immediately build on top of, that would allow us the opportunity to solidify that airport business and master plan. And so the purpose of the airport business and master plan is it has the potential to highlight the best and highest use value, how the roles and responsibilities are divided, how the various organizations work together to support economic growth and investment, and just look at our governance, our ownership structure, our infrastructure, who's in charge of marketing, business development, and all capital projects. So this would allow us that opportunity to get a head start on it and not have to wait for grants. Then it would top up an existing grant that has a deadline at the end of December. So that's why it's going.
Thank you.
And the information that was brought forward in the 2022 airport master plan didn't highlight these items. It was more of an asset and inventory management. So this would allow us the scope of doing a deeper dive.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, let's start with item number 1. Does somebody want to put that, Councillor Chair?
I move that council recommends to the Columbia Shuswap Regional District Board that $20,000 be allocated from the Economic Opportunity Fund to the Revelstoke Visual Arts Society for the studio technician.
Seconder for that motion, please, Councillor Palmer. Any further discussion on the motion?
Just gonna
Council-
say that, oh,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna
Councillor
say,
Cherry, go ahead first.
appreciate it. Just gonna state that although this doesn't help them out tremendously, it gets them started as they look for other fundings to fund that position.
Great, appreciate it. Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Mayor Souls. I'm supportive of the motion. I do have a question though, on, so this is for a position in, is there any expectation that this will end up being ongoing request? I think we've run into that issue with some other organizations of whether this is, hopefully running into a year after year kind of thing and how that works, and that maybe there isn't any direct information, but I'm just wondering if that's, if there's been any consideration. Thanks.
Through Mayor to Councillor Palmer. So that is a good question. And it was put in the discussion paper too, that this type of funding is not meant to be year over year. And that's something that we can put in the final contract, just as a caveat, so that we don't start running into this with our non-for-profit sector.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Number 2, please. Councillor Palmer?
Yes, I move that $15,000 be allocated from the Economic Opportunity Fund to the Revelstoke Heritage Railway Society to create a museum archival space.
Seconder for the motion, please, Councillor Devlin. Any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Item number 3. Councillor Orlando.
Council recommends to the Columbia Shuswap Regional District Board that $25,000 be allocated from the Economic Opportunity Fund to the Revelstoke Pickleball Club for construction of 6-court facility.
Seconder for the motion, please, Councillor Cherry. Any further discussion on the motion? Councillor Cherry?
Just have a question. Now, where are these courts located?
These courts will be located down at Centennial.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
They haven't started construction yet. Nope.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Number 4. Councillor Devlin.
Council recommends to the Columbia Shuswap Regional District Board that $10,000 be allocated from the Economic Opportunity Fund to Revelstoke Arts Council for the 2026 Youth Festival.
Seconder for the motion, please. Councillor Palmer, discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Number 5. Councillor Cherry.
I move that council recommends to the Columbia Shuswap Regional District Board that $55,000 be allocated from the Economic Opportunity Fund to the City of Revelstoke for the community economic development for the airport, business and master plan subject to the transfer of the airport ownership. Sorry.
Seconder for the motion, Councillor Palmer. Any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Item number 6. Councillor Devlin.
Council recommends to the Columbia Shuswap Regional District Board that $40,000 be allocated from the Economic Opportunity Fund to the City of Revelstoke for the community economic development for a socioeconomic impact needs assessment study. That's a lot of words.
Seconder for this motion, please. Councillor Staples. Any further discussion on this motion? Seeing that, Councillor Palmer, did you want to discuss it? Go ahead.
Yeah. Yes, please. Yeah, I guess I have a slight hesitation. I'm just, the concern that I have is another report, and I'm just, if could just give a sort of a very high level synopsis of how this is going to be executed and I guess with the intent of implementation. Thanks.
Absolutely. So right now we have $60,000 in funding set aside for this project. This would also allow for a top up. We have 20K in Etsy radar and then 40K in taxation currently. So this was put back on the docket a number of years ago. So, you know, to get an impact study done of this nature, it's going to cost a lot more. So this would allow us to have that top up. And the idea behind this is to provide a comprehensive evaluation on economic trends, development initiatives, policies, or external market factors that may affect the social and economic well-being of the Revelstoke community. So that's primarily going to be the scope.
Follow up, Councillor?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Souls. It's all good, and I appreciate all the work they're doing. My hope is when we go and do this, it doesn't become another report that goes on the shelf. I think we have a few of those. I am going to do, I think, probably a symbolic opposition to this particular one. Thank you.
And Councillor.
Yeah, thank you. Obviously, through the chair, I share Councillor Palmer's concerns of reports ending up on shelves. Perhaps, if I may ask for advice to staff on how that doesn't happen on the report, if that's possible.
Ms. Beckler, do you want to weigh in on that?
Through Councillor Palmer, sorry.
Ms. Procession?
Ms. Procession. This is the beauty of having a director.
Good afternoon, through the mayor. I find when we work with consultants really closely and we involve the rest of the staff in decisions, when we put out an RFP, it's important that consultants realize that there has to be an action plan built into it that is reviewed, feedback gotten from it, and then applied in such a nature that we don't end up with those, what I call the dusty crusties that sit on the shelf that really line consultants' pockets and don't do anything for the community that's, hoping to get something out of the project. So the goal from the start of this project will be to ensure that our RFP is very clearly laid out, that the final product must have that action plan that is easy to implement, and that all departments have an opportunity that will be affected by this particular document, that they all weigh in to say that this action plan is actually doable.
Okay. Councillor Palmer?
Thank you, Mayor Souls. A second question. Has there been much discussion with the Social Development Committee on this particular project?
It's through the mayor to Councillor Palmer. Megan is away right now, so she's our social development coordinator, so I can't speak to that with 100% confidence, what she has discussed with her committee. I know they had a meeting scheduled recently that got canceled, so I can't answer that question with confidence whether it's brought forward without having reference to minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? No, Councillor Palmer's opposed. Balance of councils in favor. This motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Beckler. Appreciate your input.
Thank you.
And well, Ms. Procession, thank you. All right, we're moving on to 11B, engineering crosswalk assessment, First Street East and MacArthur. William, this is your file. Give us a brief overview, please.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, Mayor Saltz, and members of the council. Before you this afternoon is a crosswalk assessment for the intersection of First Street East and MacArthur Avenue. This review follows a formal request from the dance studio and a subsequent council motion on June 23rd directing staff to look into it further, following an initial gap analysis that was completed. The studio provided additional data showing peak pedestrian volumes of 14 to 40 users per hour. And while this volume doesn't automatically trigger crosswalk installation, it did warrant further investigation. To evaluate this request objectively, staff used the salmon arm framework, which balances safety hazards against pedestrian demand. The evaluation broke down as follows. For pedestrian potential, the site scored 30 out of 50 points. This reflects the proximity to the dance studio and is intended to capture demand for a crosswalk at this location. For pedestrian risk, the site scored 16.4 out of 50 total points. This score was rather low because the physical hazards were deemed to be minimal. The recorded operating speed is 37 kilometers per hour. Vehicle volumes were relatively low, and there was no history of accidents here. Together, this gives a total score of 46.4 points out of the full 100, which falls into the low priority category. Under this framework, a score below 50 indicates that the road is currently safe for pedestrians to cross using the natural gaps in traffic. Beyond the numbers, there are 3 other straightforward safety reasons why staff deemed a crosswalk was not to be recommended at this location. First, being crosswalk consolidation. This is borrowed from the Salmon Arm study. As this spot is less than 70 meters from an existing crosswalk along the same section of road, safety guidelines recommend to keep crosswalks either consolidated together, or if it is deemed appropriate, that crosswalk can be moved to this location. So essentially, we wouldn't recommend supporting any crosswalks to be added within 70 meters of an existing crosswalk. The second reason being driver expectations. All existing crosswalks on First Street are at standard 4-way intersections. Drivers typically don't expect a pedestrian crossing at these atypical 3-way junctions. Because of this, it is a violation of driver expectancy, which could lead to increased risk of injury to those pedestrians. The third reason being the future speed reductions as proposed by the Transportation Master Plan. First Street East is slated to be recategorized to a local road, which would include a 30-kilometer-hour speed limit. And while we can't promise anything, that will be up to the engineer involved in the speed reduction project. The Transportation Master Plan also recommends relying on reducing vehicle speed rather than painted markings, as it could lead to a false sense of safety. So my final recommendation based on this report is to maintain the current configuration of the road without any physical upgrades, which is option 1. And option 2 is supported by council. That option would need to include a funding source for the $10,000 that was estimated for the work. And yeah, thank you for your time, and I'm open to any questions that council may have.
Council, any questions for Mr. Clark? Council Chair.
Can you, sorry, through the mayor, can you give us a breakdown of what the $10,000, how those costs are associated?
That, or through the mayor to Councillor Cherry, that figure was given to me by the director, Steve Black, and no breakdowns included.
Okay.
Any follow-up questions? Anyone else? Councilor Tibbetts.
I have a question. Just, I'm inclined to disregard staff's recommendation on this and go with option 2. My concern is that if the dance studio relocates, then we've gone to this. We've basically introduced a pedestrian crosswalk at a location that's not recommended by the staff, and the ownership of the building is unclear to me. So what would happen to that crosswalk at that point?
If, would that be, if that tenant in that building were to leave and there isn't the volume that they say there is after they left, would we decommission that crosswalk, or would that be another $10,000 to groove out the paint and take it away? That's just a general question.
Yeah, thanks for your question, Mayor Saltz. And I have not received any direction on this, but I would assume the latter option would be supported, removing the crosswalk if the studio was to move locations.
All right, Councilor Palmer.
Thank you, Mayor. So just on that last point, I think it's a little bit of a moot point. It's more than just the dance studio. There's several others, the daycare, the medical facilities, the fact that there's a city parking lot adjacent, and that location will continue to be used. Question I have to staff, aside from the inquiry from the group that initially flagged the concern here, have staff met directly with any of the businesses in that area to get their direct input, or is it just based on the observations engineering observations?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Palmer. No, we have not met with any of the businesses at that location. And just to address the first, I guess, statement that you made in that question, I do believe the demand score does appropriately cover the potential for that crosswalk to be used, but I would fall back on the point that even though the demand may be high, adding a crosswalk could increase the risk to pedestrians at that location, according to our assessment.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Councillor Lemon.
Yeah, just a question, Mayor Stolz, to the chair of staff. It's a three-way intersection, and then there's a large driveway entrance on the other side of the three-way intersection. Regarding the option of directing staff to proceed with a marked crosswalk, did staff look at the layout and identify a place where that could happen safely? And the reason I ask is I don't know the technical rules of road engineering and setbacks and what's distances, etc. So I'm just wondering if it would work, or when you raise concerns about adding, potentially increasing risk in some scenarios with additional stuff, is the slightly more challenging layout part of that, or is it just a straightforward, we can do it right across here?
Yeah, thank you for your question. The warrant study didn't cover additional items like that driveway, for example. There is a pole on the other side of the street that would likely need to be relocated. The study that we've taken here only accounts for the pedestrian risk / demand, and those items would be reviewed after this motion.
Additionally, too.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Okay, so you've got two motions in the package. Whatever you want to put one of them on. Seeing that, Councillor Devlin, go ahead, please.
I will move that council approve option 1 to maintain the current intersection configuration without physical upgrades in accordance with the technical findings of the Salmon Arm Planning Local Boards.
Second for that motion, please. I'll second that motion. Any discussion on the motion? Councillor Devlin.
Yeah, I guess I'll speak to it. As I recall, the previous conversation was to have engineering do more looking into whether or not this was a valid place to put a crosswalk, and engineering has done so, and that will then be the second time we've asked for the expertise of staff on this particular subject, and the second time we've received the same answer, and this time with a lot of data to back up the reasons they've given us that answer. So I would be reticent to go against the advice of the experts on this one, despite the fact that people seem to want it. Sometimes there's very good reasons why we don't do things just because people want us to.
Okay, comment. Thank you. Any other comments? I'm going to support option 1 as well. I agree. We've looked at this twice, and I think it warrants what our staff have told us. Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Mayor Souls. I'll be opposed to the motion, recognizing I feel that council is a bit boxed in on this. I'll be opposed because there are certain items that were discussed before, and I know some of the staff weren't here for the previous discussion, but there is still missing pieces of information, notably some of the observations of the businesses in the area, and also the consideration of the what I see as a layperson, and I think that Councillor Orlando pointed out is the driveway essentially, but it is a high traffic driveway that's directly across So I will be opposed to the motion as it stands. Thank you.
Yep. Any other comments, Councillor Cherry?
Thanks, sorry, I have a question. Do we have an update on when this street is proposed to go down to 30 kilometers an hour?
Mr. Clark, do you have any idea?
We do currently have an RFP out for the speed reduction program. It is intended to close in the next 2 weeks. And the work is slated to occur this year, following that process.
Okay. Part of me wants to defer this until after the 30K an hour happens. I do understand the engineering's perspective. I do see the light pole and potentially a telephone pole in the way. But it is quite a high traffic area, the number of businesses.
Motion's already on the
I
table.
know.
Councillor Palmer?
I'll second Councillor Cherry's motion to defer until we have this speed limit study.
You do that? All right. Councillor Orlando, there's a deferral motion on the table. Can I entertain Councillor
I
Orlando's?
guess it's a point of order,
Yeah.
if that's all right.
This voice?
What's the point of order?
I guess my point of order is just a question because we had option one, Councillor Devlin put that resolution on the floor. The mayor seconded it. We were discussing, in the middle of discussing that resolution, then a second motion to defer is put onto the table. And sorry, I'm out of my depth on procedure on that, but are we not meant to deal with the original one first?
No, a motion to defer.
Although I would point out, I don't believe Councillor Cherry actually made a motion to defer. I believe he said he was tempted to, and then Councillor Palmer said, I'll
Yeah,
second it,
and
but I don't believe a motion was actually put to defer.
I concur.
Yes, so I think that would be a more valid point of order, is that there is actually no motion to defer.
Mayor Souls, just for clarification, I thought there was a motion from Councillor Cherry. Maybe we could get clarification.
I'll put on a motion to defer until after the 30 kilometer speed reduction.
I'll second.
And I'll call the question.
Just for clarity, so we're calling a question on the motion to defer. For clarity on the wording of the motion to defer, it referenced the 30-kilometer-hour speed limit. Is this once it is there a time limit on that? Like, is it once it is in place, or what?
Yeah, so what's your preference?
Yeah, once it's in place.
Once it's in place? Okay. And we're anticipating that at some point during this year.
If I may, that will be up to the consultant that is handling that project, whether the 30-kilometer-hour is actually put in place for that road. I can't make any promises on that at this time.
Perhaps defer until after the project is done.
Sure. If I can amend that to after the project, the speed reduction project is complete.
All right. Do you go with that, Councilor Palmer?
Yes.
Okay. So is that clear to everyone? Motion is to defer until after the 30-kilometer speed program is complete. I'll call a question. All those in favor? Opposed? No. Councillor Orlando and Mayor Sauls are opposed. This motion passes. All right, we're going to move on. Construction planning. Thank you, Mr. Clark. Mr. Simon, do you have a brief overview, or is this, I see staff moving forward.
Hi,
Adrian, this is yours.
this one's mine. A little bit of a brief overview for this one. The city has received a development permit application for the construction of a 12-hole, 3-par golf course spanning across 3 properties within the Revelstoke Mountain Resort lands, offering additional recreation amenities and community members and resort guests. No work is currently being proposed in the 30% slope. If that changes, Revelstoke Mountain Resort will require an amendment to a development permit, and staff is recommending issuance of this permit. During our referral period, no concerns were raised. And it was actually supported and felt that it would be complementary to the existing or to the future 18-hole, actually to the existing 18-hole golf course that the city currently operates. Happy to field questions should council have any, and I would just like to point out that we have the proponent in the room right now. Mrs. McIntyre is in the back, should any questions not be able to be fielded by myself.
All right. Council, any questions for Ms. Colmars? Welcome, Lucius. No questions? None? Does that mean it's going to be an easy course? Councilor Palmer, you have your hand.
Yeah, thank you. I think I know the answer, but if we could just have a comment on the environmental impact, perhaps from the proponent. Just some comments on how that's being addressed.
Ms. McIntyre, are you comfortable making comment?
Yeah.
Would you come up to the podium, please?
Yeah.
To the mayor, to Mr. Palmer, Councilor Palmer, the short course will be operated by Cabot as well as the large course. It will be operated in cohesion with them. It is also under the same permit application for Audubon.
Right.
Audubon Sanctuary right now.
So anything that's done is mandated to be looked at through the provincial government and the Ministry of Environment or whatever. Is that correct?
Yeah,
And
all
then
the,
you've got that extra rating for that Audubon stuff.
correct.
Does that answer your question, Councilor Palmer? Or you have something further?
No, that's good. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions from Ms. McIntyre before she goes to be seated? Seeing none, thank you. Councilor Leonard, did you have a question? No? All right. Somebody want to put this motion on the table for me, please? It's a long one, Councilor Devlin. If you do that.
Yeah, all right, sure. I will move that development permit DP 2026-2 be issued for the protection of the natural environment, its ecosystems, and biological diversity. The construction of a 12-hole par 3 golf course within the Revelstoke Mountain Resort and environmentally sensitive development permit areas located at 1775 Nickel Road, 1795 Nickel Road, and 2104 Airport Way. And I think that's it.
That is, seconder for the motion, please, Councilor Cherry. Any further discussion on this motion? Councilor Cherry.
Thanks. I just want to agree that this is complementary. Having 3 courses built in Revelstoke provides economic opportunity for the entire community, becoming a golf destination, ensuring that we are a 4-season resort town.
Good, appreciate that. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? No, motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Ms. McIntyre. Appreciate your presence. Ms. Colmars, thank you for your work on this file. We're going to move on to change of street addressing. Ms. Hogan, this one is yours.
Correct, this is mine.
Okay, can you give us a brief overview, please?
Sure, so this is a readdressing proposal for the subject property at 400 Humbert Street. The city received a building permit application at 402 Humbert Street for the construction of a duplex. And due to historic addressing, the spacing between street numbers on Humbert Street could not accommodate the infill. So staff are proposing the newly constructed duplex be addressed as 400 and 398 Humbert Street, and that the adjacent property be addressed as 394 Humbert Street.
Any questions for Ms. Hogan? Councilor Cherry.
Thanks. We chatted about this before. If an address has to be readdressed and they have to change the numbers on it, I believe right now, or our current previous bylaws, it was the homeowners that had to pay for that change. And we did discuss changing that so that the newly constructed house or the developer had to pay for these changes. Has that happened yet?
No, this is under the current policy that we're following. Correct, Ms. Hogan?
Through the chair, that's correct. So if council would like us to look at looking into the addressing policy, we'd have to be directed to do so. Mr. Summerkin.
It might be an that afterwards.
Okay. Councilor Palmer.
I'll put the motion on the table that that 400 Humbert Street be readdressed to 394 Humbert Street.
Second for that motion, please. Councillor Cherry.
I'll
Any further
speak-
discussion on the motion? You go ahead, Councillor Palmer.
Yeah, so I'll speak to the motion. Yeah, it's fine. I have confidence with staff on this. Part of me is thinking that perhaps this should be a delegated authority. That's something for consideration in the future. And further to Councillor Cherry's comments, maybe that this be looked at a governance committee with the new council. Thank you.
Great. All right. Appreciate that comment. I think it's frustrating for the person who gets the change of address. I've had that in my house twice over the years, and I know it's frustrating, but this is kind of the way we are. And if we want to change this at some point, council could change that where the person making that change pays a sum of money to the people that getting the change done to them to compensate them for the changes they need to make. Any other comments on the motion on the table?
Sure. If I can, I think it'd be appropriate after this to make a motion to send the street naming and addressing policy to the governance committee.
Okay. All right. So the motion on the table to change the address 400 to 394. We'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Councillor Cherry.
I'd like to make a motion that the street naming and addressing policy be sent to the governance committee for review and changes.
Seconder for that motion, please. Councillor Staples. Any further discussion on that motion? Councillor Orlando.
Just for clarity on the motion from the floor, is the street naming policy and addressing policy, are they the same thing?
Says
Yes,
yes, 12.
They're a part of it, okay. Just as a suggestion, maybe for an amendment, the naming policy has been through various revisions over the years, and I don't know that the issue is specifically the naming part, it's just the numbering part and the changes that need to be had. Is it possible to refine the motion a little bit to focus on the issue that arose as a result of this as opposed to the whole thing?
I have no problem with that.
Okay. And Councillor Staples, do you second that? You okay with that change?
Sure.
Okay. So we'll revise that to just the numbering portion.
Yeah,
Orlando.
yeah, or whatever reference to this specific issue, just so that whoever receives it doesn't say, okay, let's look at the whole thing and review it, because I think we're happy with other parts of it.
Okay. I'll call a question on the motion. All those in favor? Opposed? No, motion's carried. Thank you. All right, moving on to item 11E, Minor Hockey Association request, formal use agreement. Ms. Donato, can you give us a brief overview, please?
Thank you, Your Worship. Council may recall this came before you at the committee as a whole in February this year. I have since had conversations with Minor Hockey and have determined that the best route is a license of occupation to formalize the existing use of the space. So I've included some key terms that are in the agreement, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Donato? My question, Ms. Donato, is just this gives the Minor Hockey kind of control over that room, and they are able to work with the Grizzlies who rent that room out under this license of occupation. Is that correct?
Correct, Your Worship. This just legalizes the use that's been occurring for the past 20 years.
Right.
So for 20 years, Minor Hockey has been occupying that space. They've been maintaining it. They've been allowing other user groups, other Arena Ice user groups, access to that space for various meetings, club events, things like that. It is anticipated that that will continue, and that Minor Hockey will manage that and will retain any revenue if they choose to charge groups for the use, to recover their cleaning costs or anything like that.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that. Any other questions for Mr. Donato, Councilor Palmer?
Probably just more of a question. I don't know if it can be answered, by just looking at future possible consequences. So once we have our new arena, what does that look like?
Mr. Donato, do you care to weigh in once there's a new arena, multiplex?
Your worship, I am not sure what that will look like at this time. 20 years ago, the group fundraised for this edition, so they received community support, donations. I believe there was no cost to the city from what I could see in the files. So I'm assuming if they wanted to fund and construct a space within that facility, we would operate it in the same way we are now with a license of occupation. I don't know what that would look like though. I think we have to cross that bridge then.
Okay, thank you. Follow up, Councilor Palmer?
Yes, I'll do a follow-up statement, I guess, or dialogue. This makes sort of logical sense based on the history. And as we move, make motions regarding the facility, moving ahead, are we creating, future problems? Is because the way things were done in the past through volunteer work is not how things, this was done by well-meaning people that probably couldn't be done today. And I guess that's the concern of creating expectations that go beyond today. As we have these discussions, both on the multiplex and the arena portion of that, I think these sort of nuances of those kind of questions are important. Where they belong, I'm not sure. Thank you, Mayor Souls.
Appreciate that. Any other comments, Councilor Orlando?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Souls. I'm supportive of the resolution direction put forward by staff. As council recalls, this question arose from Minor Hockey seeking clarification on the longstanding use of a facility that they built, and this just formalizes and makes clear that use. The license of occupation seems like a fair way to move forward. I'm happy to move forward with it today. And I do agree with the responses from staff to questions from council that what happens next when we build a new facility is a future chapter, and I don't think it has a lot of bearing on finalizing this decision and allowing the volunteers at Revelstoke Minor Hockey to move on with the new season.
Great. Thank you. Councilor.
Thanks. Through the chair, do you know of any friction points that this might cause that we aren't aware of? Sorry, I meant to direct that to you, Mr. Nana.
Your worship, to Councillor Cherry. I'm not aware of any conflicts that would cause. It is my understanding that they will continue operating it the same way they have in past seasons, so I don't anticipate any conflicts. I think this just gives certainty and confidence for Minor Hockey in the arrangements they make with anyone wanting to use the space.
Thank you.
Councilor Palmer?
Thank you, Mayor Souls. I think it's good discussion. I'll be supportive of the motion based on the balance of the merits. I think in answer to Councillor Cherry's questions that this was up before, and I think if there was any strong opposition, that we would have heard that from other user groups. And so in the balance of things, it's good. I would encourage that in that agreement that there would be a qualifying phrase that, that there is no precedence created for future facilities and that this is applying to our current facility only. Thank you.
All right.
I do think that's actually included. There's an address.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Donato. Appreciate the work on that. All right, moving into correspondence, item 12A, Revelstoke Nordic Ski Club asking for a letter of support for a high elevation trail. Any comments, questions from council? Councilor Orlando.
I don't have comments or questions. I'm happy to put a motion on the table. Yeah, I'd like to move that council provide Revelstoke Nordic Ski Club a letter of support as requested for their planned high elevation trail.
Great. Seconder, Councillor Staples. Any further discussion on that motion, Councillor Leno?
Sure, if I may. Yeah, the club is nearing, has done a lot of the groundwork and is looking to get ready to go on a higher elevation trail over Mount McPherson. They want the letter of support to seek out grants and other sorts of funding. And yeah, I think it's in my view, it's an excellent initiative. I ski over there, and the higher up you can get, the better, especially in warmer seasons. And yeah, it just seems like a great project by like a really big and high functioning club. And yeah, looking forward to see what they can come up with.
Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Mayor Schultz. I think it's a great project. One question I have is on the utilizations commissions and committees, whether we would be wise to perhaps get the input from economic development. I think that's probably the most appropriate before going ahead. Ultimately, I'll be supportive of it regardless. Thank you.
Councillor Chair.
Is this within city limits? Is it CSRD?
CSRD.
Does anybody know if they've also contacted the Area B director for some other support?
I have no idea.
Although I'd be happy to support this, I would also encourage them to reach out to the CSRD for support as well.
Good. We'll make that comment to them. Okay, I'm going to call a question. All those in, Councillor Palmer, before I call the question.
Yeah, so when that letter of support is, in principle based on what we've done there, I guess just because that when Councilor Cherry mentions Area B director, there's potential friction points because we're kind of meddling in his area. But so I think we should go ahead, but we might want to be careful with our wording in that letter, and I'm sure that will happen. Thank you.
I'll call a question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you.
Sorry, Mayor Schultz.
Yes.
The previous item, the motion was not actually put on the table and seconded, but you called the question. The license and occupation.
Oh, well, let's go back and redo that. Somebody want to put that motion on the table for Councillor Leno?
Yeah, that a license of occupation with the Revelstoke Minor Hockey Association for the exclusive use of the minor hockey room located within the Revelstoke Forum be approved, and that the corporate officer and director of Parks, Recreation, and Culture be authorized to execute the agreement on behalf of the city.
Seconder, Councillor Cherry. I'll call a question again. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. I thought about that halfway through. Did I put that on there? All right. Going on to item 12B, community concern letter regarding Revelstoke's growing rat population. Any comments, Councillor Palmer and Councillor Cherry?
Yeah, I'd like to refer this letter to the Environmental Committee.
Okay.
What am I going to get?
That's a motion.
Okay. Somebody want to second that motion? Councillor Devlin, discussion on the motion. Seeing none, Councillor Cherry, did you have a comment?
I don't think I'm allowed to comment anymore.
Yeah, it's a referral, not a deferral.
Am I?
Yeah.
I was just gonna say that I spoke with the proponent, with Stephanie Tricker. Rather than just post this on the community page, she thought writing to council would be a better method to getting something done. She's not looking for us to exactly cure the rat problem, but potentially put out some sort of correspondence about the issue and how to direct residents to tackle it themselves, as well as having the city look into what can be done.
Well, I think that's, thank you for that input. And I think as you've done with the comments, but also Councillor Palmer's motion to go to environmental can have that discussion and go from there. So Councillor Palmer, you still have your hand up. Do you want to make that a comment?
No, thank you.
I'll call a question. Oh, Councillor Devlin.
I just wanted to tell a little anecdotal story. When I first read this email, About 10 minutes after that, I left my house to go for a walk downtown, and about 2 blocks away from my house, I saw a rat sauntering across the street and stopped and looked at me as if it knew that I just received an email about it. So there it is, apparently a rat problem in Revelstoke, and they're on the streets now, out and about broad daylight, not giving anybody any concerns.
Giving you the royal salute. All right, I'll call a question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. I think Mr. Gypsis falls to bylaw.
Issue some citations there, Kenny.
Well, I issued the tickets for crossing the road illegally.
I do feel this probably is under the animal control bylaw as well. I don't know that it specifies what animals it covers. Does it? Cool, good to know. So if I get a coyote over there?
We had more coyotes, we'd have less rats. I don't think so.
Less rats too, unfortunately.
License occupation residential EV parking stall. So this request for somebody to put a EV parking charger on their fence, and they be given a license of occupation on the city street for them only is a little concerning for me. Any comments from council? Councilor Staples, Councilor Devlin?
Well, I can appreciate the initiative that this resident's trying to do. I share the same concerns with you, and when it comes to that property, is this going to carry with the property if they were to transfer ownership? I think it's also something that should be potentially addressed through a rigorous parking plan for the city. So I'm not sure I'm supportive of it at this time, but appreciate the correspondence.
Councilor Devlin?
Yeah, just through the chair towards staff. I'm not quite sure who this would go to. Is there a process that people would normally go through for a request like this, other than just emailing mayor and council? I assume that there's some sort of application or process for a license of occupation of this manner.
Councillor Devlin through the mayor, there is no formal process. Typically, the engineering department does not support license of occupations for like personal use on a public road. However, Ms. Lindsay may have further comment.
Ms. Lindsay, do you want to weigh in at all on the letter?
I don't really have any additional to what Ms. Boyd has just said, other than staff will struggle to support this request.
So I'm not going to support a license of occupation or put a motion forward on this. What I'm concerned about is that I understand the EV charger is already in place. So this is like opening the barn door after the horse is out, which is a little bit concerning. The parking spot, if this was a downtown business, parking is what, $24,000 a spot for a license of occupation for a parking spot. And being this is in a residential neighborhood, I'm concerned about that. There's a way that people have a laneway behind their home. Maybe they could get access to the backyard if they don't have room in the front yard to park a car. So I'm not prepared to go any further with this. Any other comments from council? Councilor Maloney?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Stolz. I guess it's just a general question for staff, and my original sort of comment or question would be the same as Councilor Devlin's. I noticed as a correspondence item, normally this would be coming through some sort of an application. My question is just on somebody who theoretically doesn't have off-street parking and has an electric vehicle. Are there any provisions for them now to be able to formalize a charging station or what?
Most people would use a public charging station if they weren't getting access, but I'll go to Ms. Lindsay.
Thank you, Worship. Through the mayor, the alternative would be, and I don't know the specifics of this particular property and what the orientation of their like dwelling is, but the other option would be applying for a driveway permit so they can have off-street access and like an allocated parking space on their property for charging.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any other comments on the letter? Seeing none, we'll leave that and move on. to 13A Communications, Revelstoke and Area Economic Development Commission minutes. Councilor Orlando, this is your committee. Could you give us the value of your opinion on this, Bruce?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. So I will just give you a brief update. The main topic of this meeting was the MXD section 17 West Side Road study. And the reason I'm going to keep it short is because it is on the agenda for this Thursday's Committee of the Whole meeting where we can discuss it in more detail. Essentially, the the results of the study were in. The commission reviewed them and provided additional input, which has then subsequently been finalized by staff for presentation at Committee of the Whole on Thursday, where we can get into it in more detail.
Great, appreciate that. Any comments from council? Seeing none, I will see if we have any questions from the press. Ms. Delaselle, do you have any questions online? Excuse me.
There are no online questions, Your Worship.
Great, and our reporter was here and has left the room, so we are done for the day, so I will call for termination. Councillor Stapenhurst, Councillor Devlin, all in favor? Motion's carried. We're done. Thank you. Thank you for joining us, Councillor Palmer. Appreciate it.